Good evening and welcome to CanHammer, your stop for AOS and 40k from the Great White North. Today's show is episode 116. It's going to be a primarily 40k show and a little bit of Shadespire. We're going to be talking all about Astra Militarum and kind of what we've been up to and get caught up in the hobby. As usual, I'm your host, Chris, at CanHammer Chris on Twitter, and I'm joined by my co-host...
Darren.
And Darren's not on Twitter because that's how he rolls. So what this is, what you're listening to, is our bi-weekly, hopefully weekly podcast where we talk all about the hobby, what we've been up to, tournaments, and we kind of enlighten and bring the Canadian scene to you guys, hopefully through our voices. If you want more information about our YouTube channel or anything else that we do, you can always go to canhammer.ca. We also link all of our events that we run, and everything's available kind of at that one-stop shop. We should start off with our shoutouts, patrons/redactions. So I'm just going to give a shout-out to our ongoing patrons. Thanks, guys, for keeping the lights on, and I'll hand it off to Darren to, pay the bills and plug the sponsors.
Yeah, just want to continue to thank our two main sponsors. One is Martin from War Games. He gives us sponsorship through Patreon and offers all our patrons an additional 5% off any orders going through him. His website is wargamesco.co.uk. So it's not just wargames.co.uk, it's wargamesco.co.uk. Obviously, he's based in the UK, so this perhaps is more applicable to our European listeners. But certainly, if you're anywhere near near England, he can get you some good deals, and he's a big supporter of the channel.
Yep, and if you're ever in the Liverpool area, please stop in, check out his store. I've done the Skype tour of it, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks great. Well, just looking at the pictures. And then our other sponsor, of course, is Dylan from Multizone, just right here in Gatineau across the river. And his sponsorship includes where we run all our tournaments. And he's been offering anybody who orders from multizone.ca a 15% discount by using the discount code CanHammer. And so that basically counts for anything that you order off his website, including 40K and AOS and all that other stuff. And excitingly, we're working out a deal where he's going to kick back some of that discounted revenue towards prize support for tournaments. So that's kind of a cool way of giving back to the community there.
Yeah, good. So it's been a while, buddy. How have you been? You're feeling better?
I was so sick.
Yeah, so we've been off the air for a while. Darren basically died. So I'm glad that you're alive and you're back, and it's good, man, to hear your voice. So,
oh man, like you got two kids, right? Did they ever get hand, foot, and mouth disease?
Nope. My kids are clean, unlike yours.
Oh,
no, I'm
man.
just kidding. I get sick all the time, but I've never had that, and I don't even want to know. But
it was bad.
So while you were sick, were you able to get hobby done?
Oh, dude, like for about 5 days, I was just dealing with Charlotte and then my own sickness, and I couldn't even talk, let alone like do anything. But then for the last, because it's been, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks since I've been on the podcast, I've been like hobbying my ass off, like hardcore.
That's good. I've seen a lot of your picks. So the Elysians are coming along really well, right?
Well, the Elysians are done now.
Oh.
So 25 Elysians took a long time, actually. But I'm quite happy with them. They were a little bit of a labor of love. They're very finicky, small little models with a lot of detail. But I'm pretty happy with them. Of course, I'm running them mostly as Tempestus because I don't like the Tempestus models.
Which I don't know how you can't like the Tempestus models. I love them.
I don't know. I just don't like
fantastic.
them. It's kind of weird because I still have the Tempestor Primes, like non-Forge World models, and I'm using Toroxes, like so. But it seems to mesh pretty well together, especially once they're all the same color. So, yeah.
Cool. And you've been painting some Space Marines, right? Some Dark Angels that you use as Raven Guard.
Yeah. So because of the FAQ, it screwed my Gene Stealer Guard army basically. Like.
We'll get into that. I want to get into that in the Astra Militarum part.
Yeah,
because I think that's applicable. So let's keep it to the hobby. Keep it to the hobby. So
I was about to paint another Primus and some other Gene Stealer stuff, but I stopped and I finished off my aggressors. So I've got 9 aggressors now done.
Yeah, which is pretty. And you run yours different than the, I guess, current I'm not gonna say meta, but the current common practice of running them.
Yeah. I guess everybody's the Bullstorms are probably better, but I'm just stuck on this idea of deep striking in like 36 flamer hit shots. So that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, well, you can't really use the flamers when you deep strike. But I understand your point exactly. Like, you scout up, you can move in, you can do some damage, people can't charge you. I actually think they might be good. There are a lot of points, mind you, but I think they might be good in the current demon meta. If you can get something in there to absorb the smites, you can then use them to really pump out the damage on the brims and things like that. But, even the math on that's not great, so...
Yeah. No, it's not meant to be ultra competitive. Using the Raven Guard stratagem, I can get them in to flamer range on the first turn because they can act normally on the first turn.
And it doesn't bother you that you're painting them in Dark Angel color scheme and using them as Raven Guard? That doesn't affect you?
No, because eventually when I get my codex, I'm sure I'll have pretty similar stuff. So it's just a stopgap before the Dark Angels get their codex.
Oh, is that a promise then?
Oh, yeah. It's promised.
Anything else crazy that you've been working on?
People may have seen a Tau army I've been collecting. Since Logan's not going to be putting Tau on the channel anymore, I've actually started a Tau army.
Loser. Why would you do that?
I don't know. I think it's going to be good once they get some codex action, and we just need a bit of variety on the channel. So I've got the Tau army. I've been looking at Eldar, but haven't dropped the hammer on any Eldar stuff yet. And of course, I still got orcs to paint, which is next once I've done my P&P prep. So
yeah,
I still got that orc army.
Well, that's the thing. Orcs are a tough one right now to paint if you're going from a gaming point of view, because they're just falling behind in the meta so far, and they're just not functioning or doing as well as I would have hoped they are to justify painting another like 80 or 90 models. So
yeah, and they started off so promising, same with Tyranids, although Tyranids is now catching up, but the orcs have really fallen by the wayside. So I hope they get their codex soon, because it was fun having orcs around,
for a while. Yeah. And then cool. So you've been pretty busy, which is awesome. Any crazy? You're known for your
Shadespire too.
Oh, you got your Shadespire painted. That's right. They look fantastic.
I finished the Reavers because that's what I'm going to be playing against Phil. I'm just finishing off the Stormcast now. I don't really like painting Stormcast, I got to tell you.
Why not?
I don't know. I just don't like gold and then all the other stuff.
Well,
so
then paint them blue. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I like to make them how they look on the box. And the Reavers were a pain because muscle is like a real pain in the ass to paint. Like, surprisingly painful to paint muscles.
It's funny because you're saying that to a guy that's working on a 140 model Fire Slayer army at the moment. Yeah, I know. I feel your pain.
And I should be able to get my skeletons tomorrow, hopefully, from Dylan, which are the real guys I'm going to play. Those look awesome. Those Sepulchral Guard Shadespire guys.
Cool. We're actually going to talk about Shadespire when we get to the new release stuff. So I'm going to get into what I've been kind of up to, just to keep people aware of what, has been kind of coming down the pipe and what you can expect to see at the tournaments. So if you listen to my Quebec City podcast, I know, we were basically in front of a waterfall. I don't know, you either like it or you hate it. It is what it is. So you know that I got a whole bunch of demon stuff ready for that, and I got the Super Chicken. So that took up a lot of my time as I got the Super Chicken. He came on a Tuesday, and by that Friday I got him fully painted and washed. I just had to highlight him now, and his base is fully done. So he's looking pretty good, actually. If I spent 2-3 nights on him, I think I could really get him done, which would be a nice shelf piece.
What's the quality of that model?
Yeah, so that's one thing I didn't talk about last show is the model's actually gorgeous, except for the wings. The wings are very static. They're very rounded. And most of their detail is basically, they're very detailed wings. Somebody definitely did a really nice job sculpting the feathers, but they're not dynamic, and they're too, they look like classic resin wings. They're like one solid rounded piece, and they're not very nice. I think if you replace those wings with something from the new Lord of Change box, I actually think it would look amazing, because the detail on the face, head, teeth, chest pieces is way nicer than some of the plastic ones.
But it's probably an appropriate size if you use the new Lord of Change wings.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. He's only 2 inches taller than the new Lord of Change, which is pretty crazy. So that took a lot of my time there, and we did that bonus show, so I won't talk too much more about that. You know how that went. But I've been experimenting a lot with glazes. So I did up like 120 brimstones, and I'm not 100% happy with how they finished. I kind of rushed some of them for the ETC, and then I rushed the rest for Quebec City. And so I was experimenting. I got all the glazes out. I did a yellow, a red, some blue, some green glazes, just to kind of see which one had the best impact on my my brimstones to make them kind of look smoother, look more, I want to say airbrushy, but not really, like just smooth out the transition from the dry brush. And so I found that it's basically, was it Bloodletter Red glaze? Does a fantastic job of just kind of bringing, because mine go from red to yellow, and so this just kind of does a nice job of bringing the yellow down to an orange, but still kind of yellow. And then it kind of just meshes all the other reds that like kind of scroll up, because I use 3 colors of red and then yellow. And so it kind of just brings them together and smooths out the transition. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then I've been doing their eyes green, like kind of like an emerald green, just so that they stick out, so it doesn't look like a blob of model. And I do their teeth black. So they kind of, I added a whole bunch of character, and I got this test brimstone done. And so I'm hoping to get the rest done. It doesn't take long. 1-2 nights I should be able to get those done. But it took a long time just to sample the glazes, wait for them to dry, figure out which ones I liked, and then kind of decide on a commitment to do 120 of those guys.
Yeah.
And see how it goes. And then just Fire Slayers, man. I built another... So I actually have 120 Volkite Berserkers, which thinking back on was a bad idea. I only actually needed 90. And then I just bought 30 Hearthguard, which really, it didn't bother me because we have great sponsors that give us good deals. I actually got them from Brockville at Sequence Comics. He's really, he really helps us out a lot sometimes with product and ordering stuff in when we need it. For me, because I actually live out in the boonies, really far away from Dillon and Ottawa, so Brockville really comes through, because I happen to have a friend that drives by the store every day on the way in. So I ended up picking them up, but they're $10 retail per model, and you need to run a unit of 30 to get the new discount. Now, they're awesome, right? They get a 4+ save on mortal wounds and regular wounds if they have a character within like 6 inches or 10 inches. I forget the exact number. I usually have the character right up on the butt of the unit because he gets a lookout sir, and I'm usually trying to block line of sight with him. They hit on a 3+, and then for every hit on a 3+, they do a mortal wound, and they're pretty good. But they come in boxes of 5, and they're $50 boxes. So
wow.
Yeah. So to do a unit of 30 is like $300 basically retail.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it's almost insane, but you need one unit because combine that with a rune smitter, and it's just awesome. Because without the mortal wounds, they don't have a lot of rend in the army, so you can't do a lot. So anyway, long story short, I built my last Volkite Berserkers, and the reason I had them anyways because I bought the Start Collecting boxes. So I finished the work on them. I got everything spray primed, and I've been base coating basically 150 models with Flesh, because I don't have my airbrush up and running right now, and I need them to have color on them for this weekend. So that's what I've been up to. So that's pretty good. So we've been contributing to the GW hobby, it sounds like.
Yep.
So we're going to move on to new releases. From the Age of Sigmar front, we have Shadespire, which really isn't Age of Sigmar. It's Warhammer Underworlds. Shadespire, so I'm wondering, is that Warhammer Underworlds and Shadespire is just that kit?
They have released AOS rules for the warbands. So like the Reavers, for example, is a 60-point unit that you can play as Khorne Bloodbound. So and same with the Eternals, it's a 3-man, I think 90-point unit you can play with the Stormcast army. So there is overlap there for sure, obviously.
Yeah, but that's what I'm wondering from a gaming point of view, is they've kind of taken the Warhammer brand, and now it's like Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and now it's Warhammer Underhive Shadespire. So Shadespire must be that box's name, or that set of cards. So it's like a 200 set of cards name. And then I'm wondering if they're going to bring another set that'll be like Warhammer Underhive something else, right?
Yeah, it's
so
possible.
I'm curious how I'm actually super nerdy curious about the naming convention and how that's going to unfold.
Because, didn't they strike some deal with this game company? What's it called?
Wizards of the Coast?
No, not Wizards of the Coast.
It was the one that does...
WizKids?
WizKids, yeah, the one that does like the Star Trek Attack Wing and stuff like that.
So you wonder what's going to come out of there, right? So just kind of spreading the IP as wide as possible.
I have a feeling that might be linked to Shadespire. The only reason is that because Shadespire really does follow that model. So we're gonna get we talked a little bit, it came out, but I wanted to really talk about, because Darren has played it, I've played it, we've assembled it, I don't know if you've obsessed over it. I've put a lot of thought into it, and I've been really enjoying it. So basically, Shadespire's turning into, with these new expansion packs, it's going to be something where you have to keep buying an expansion pack constantly to keep your warbands relevant, because these new expansion packs, so if you play Stormcast Eternals, you still want to buy the Orc expansion pack, because you're going to have cards in there that are going to help your faction out, right? So
yeah, it's interesting. They've kind of put it into kind of like a living card game sort of Fantasy Flight thing.
Exactly, but it has miniatures, so it reminds me of like Star Trek Attack Wing, where
it's pretty clever.
You're like, oh, I play Romulans, this Romulan ship comes out, and I'll never want that ship in my fleet, but I definitely want these 3 cards, so I have to buy like 2 of those, right?
Yeah, because there's a distinct deck building element to it, right? And there's always a need to get more cards whenever you have deck building, so I think it's pretty interesting. Very, very interesting.
It's cool. The only thing that really worries me is I really love it, but I also really hate it, because I'm the type of guy that if I'm playing a game, even if I'm somewhat more casual with it, I'm really going to want to have access to all the cards. So if they're releasing, let's say, 2 sets a month, even though they're fairly reasonably priced for a few miniatures and some cards, I'm going to feel the need to buy 2 sets every month. And so I'm worried that if they really start pumping those sets out, it could overload and kind of turn me off of it, because I'm just that kind of obsessed right now over it. Whereas if they trickle the releases out properly and spread them out, like I was thinking every couple of weeks would be better, so you had enough time to build your decks, play a few gaming nights with it, and then, a new deck comes in, it shifts up the meta a little bit, and you don't get that card overload where, like, every month, like, 100 cards are introduced into the meta, and you're like, geez, I have to learn all these combos, and by the time you figure those out, 100 more are in. I'd rather have the trickle. I don't know how you feel on that.
I guess we'll see when the first 2 packs come out, whether it's really just cards for that warband or whether there are more generic cards.
There are more, and it's worth getting. Like, there's going to be at least 1 or 2 cards that you're going to want in your deck. Maybe not a lot of cards, but if you're competitive, you want to run a few events, you're going to want to buy them all. which is to me is good and bad, right? Because the miniatures are awesome, but I don't necessarily want to always, because what do they retail for? Is it 16 Canadian a month?
Yeah, it's not a lot.
16 Canadian a pack. But it's not a lot, but you're going to want to spend that $30.
Yeah, but at least you know like this one card is not going to be rare, and you're going to have to spend $500 for it or something, right?
Oh, that's if it was that, I wouldn't play at all. But it's something that I actually think it's a smart move on their point, because they have this little game that's really fun to play, a little bit competitive, well, very competitive. And if you walk in with $25, $30, and you're going to the game store, you can basically buy something and contribute and constantly spend something, because maybe your 40k army's almost done, or you have nothing else you want to buy. So you buy a paint or 2, you buy a Shadespire expansion, you're done, right?
Yep.
It's cool. So you've played a few games. What'd you think so far? What's your first impression?
I haven't actually played any games yet.
I thought you did.
No, so tomorrow is my Shadespire day. I'm playing hopefully many games tomorrow. I tried to kind of play against myself, but it's kind of difficult to do that. So I've been looking through all the cards and stuff. Yeah, for sure. And at first I thought that. So here's the funny thing. I thought I was missing 2 dice, because in the box you get 5 white dice and 3 black dice. So I thought I was missing 2 black dice. So then I looked in the instruction manual, and there's a picture there of 5 white dice and 5 black dice. But then when you look on the GW website about the new dice sets coming out, there's 5 of one color and 3 of another color. So I actually emailed GW. I'm like, so what's the deal? Am I missing dice or not? And the guy didn't really know. He had to go ask like the Shadespire team, and apparently that's what it should be: 5 white dice and 3 black dice. So
that's actually the one complaint. So it's super fun. I definitely get how you can get addicted to this game. The one thing I don't like is actually the dice. I don't know about you. I'm just not feeling it right now. Maybe I will one day. Maybe I'm just like so D6 like like in there. But I'm like, and I'm not a huge fan of the crit stopping all the damage, because it feels like that luck mechanic can really shut down. You take the risk of charging, and one lucky die roll can shut you down as an attacker. That kind of drives me a little bit bananas. But other than that, it's pretty solid. Super tactical and fast.
Yeah, no, I've been watching videos of it, and literally like a 20-minute bat rep is like 3 games.
Yeah, I really want to run a tournament in Ottawa for Shadespire. I was thinking about booking it in November, but I really want to see what these 2 new packs are, the Orcs and the Undead, because I'm like, I feel like it would get stale if you ran too many tournaments. It's like half the people play Stormcast, half play Bloodbound.
Yeah.
Or what if like nobody plays Stormcast? Because a lot of people hate Stormcast where we live. So you could just have a whole bunch of Bloodbound. But
we should do a pre-Christmas December tournament when we have the 4 factions out. Yeah.
Well, I'm even hoping that more might come out, and as Darren said earlier, so we got 2 factions. We have 4 dice sets actually coming out. One of them is blue for the Stormcast, you have red for the Bloodbound, you have one for Undead, and I believe one for Orcs as well, which should be pretty interesting.
But the Skaven's coming. I think Skaven was already spoiled, and I can't remember who the 6th one is, but there's going to be at least 6 that we know of. When that's coming is not clear, but Skaven's definitely coming.
Well, so that'll be good then. We'll have a lot of good factions. So moving on from Shadespire, we'll have more coming on that, because I think we're both well invested into that. I'm having trouble getting Jason invested, but we'll see. We'll see. So move on. I'll hand it over to you, Darren, for some 40K rumors and news.
Yeah, so 40K Eldar was just released. Did not come with any new models, of course, but that was the release this week. Since I've been on, of course, it's been Guard, and it's been some FAQs, and then next week is Tyranids, which looks pretty good, actually.
And does that meet the 2-week P&P deadline? It does, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So that made me happy. So we changed our tournament actually just to accommodate the Tyranid players, which is going to be really rough if they destroy everybody.
Well, we have a bunch of Tyranid players, and they were very grateful. But there's such a stark difference right now between Codex and Index armies that I think the more people that can play Codex is better. Like, not for the Index players, of course, but they won't have a lot of time to have played through all their stuff. So I guess it'll balance out.
Well, one can only hope. So that's pretty crazy. So the 40K releases are still coming thick and fast, and with Shadespire, we're not really getting any Age of Sigmar releases, which is actually driving me bananas, because General Handbook 2 came out, made me super happy, and I've just kind of been chilling. Like, we got the campaign pack, which I'm like, cool. I actually didn't even purchase it because I just don't think I'll actually have somebody to play with.
So I guess the real question is, so there should be 2 more codexes before Christmas, so we don't know what those are going to be. And they've already been spoiling Necromunda as their kind of Christmas boxed game.
$150 Canadian.
So I don't think we're going to see any Sigmar before Christmas.
That's a shame that Sigmar basically lost a lot of releases. Like, General Handbook 2 is awesome, but man, it'd be nice to have a new faction or something figured out, or... Man, I'm a little bit upset, but we got to move on because I got so many fires. I'm so happy over the Fire Slayer changes that I can't really stay down too much. So we're gonna move on. We have an upcoming event, P&P 9. You want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, that's in a few weeks on the 25th or 26th, whichever one's the Saturday. 25th. 25th, yeah. So that's P&P 9. That's going. Where are we at now, Chris? Like 23, 24 people.
So we were at 24. We had 2 dropouts. Right now we have 20 people signed up. We have a few that need to still pay, so they could get bumped. So we do have openings, so feel free to sign up. It's at Multizone in Gatineau, Quebec. It's a 1-day, 3-game tournament. we're being very open with rules, but we're not allowing Forge World. But pre-game, you're allowed to select your psychic powers and warlord trait every game. We're going to be very open, so give people a chance to test out all their new psychic powers, test out all their new warlord traits, a little bit more detail. One thing that did come up is I got asked the question, can you change craft worlds per game? Or I kind of assume that that's like changing regiments per game, and no, regiments and craft worlds, anything keyword related, has to be done on your army list. And we'll add that to the pack if we have time.
Yeah, I think that would be too crazy. Yeah, and a lot of your army design decisions are based around that. So I don't see how your army would work too well if you could literally just swap back and forth.
Yep, and if you check out another upcoming event in the Eastern Ontario area anyway, is they have a 2,000 point Age of Sigmar tournament coming up at Sequence Comics in Brockville next month. So you check out their Facebook page, Sequence Comics, and you'll get more information on that, whether or not there's available space. Should be a good time, so check it out.
Yeah, and actually Ben Lorty in Ottawa, he's been running every 3 or 4 weeks a little 1K, 2-3 game 40K tournament. 1,000 points, 2 detachment limit, no Forge World, no Lord of Wars, just sort of people try some stuff out at lower point values. So if you're interested in sort of smaller games just on a Saturday, you can find that information at Multizone.
With that, we're going to get right into our main topic of the podcast episode, and that's going to be Astra Militarum. So this book just came out, Imperial Guard. This book just came out, made a lot of people really upset and a lot of people really happy. Darren, are you one of those happy or upset people?
I'm happy because I've been collecting them now. But I'm also happy because I think Guard is so key to the not the fluff, but the feel of the game. You need orcs, you need Space Marines, you need Guard, and maybe I'm not going to say demons, but chaos in general. You need chaos, right? And so we definitely got chaos these days, and we got Space Marines. And so I think Guard being strong, or at least people playing Guard, is good for the game. I know that it was a roller coaster with this codex, because at first there were things that people were expecting and it didn't happen, and then the FAQ came out like a week later, and then so it's been a roller coaster for Guard players, but overall it's good. I don't think any Guard player could complain about what they got with this codex.
So before we move on to that, earlier in the show we talked about how your Gene Stealer cult got screwed over. I'm using your words. So why don't you get into that a little bit, just for put a little context into how this affected Gene Stealer cult.
Yeah, so it was the FAQ actually that stated that if you play Gene Stealer cult, you're allowed to take a detachment of Astra Militarum and their brood brothers. So you could literally just take an army that had Gene Stealer cult, Astra Militarum, and you could also add Tyrannus to that, and that was completely legal, and you could play it like Guard and play it like Gene Stealers. You can even share stratagems. But the FAQ clarified that they're not actually regiment anymore. You replace regiment with brood brothers, and so they can't get access to any of the new stuff. And you can't use named characters, obviously. So that it doesn't make them unplayable. It makes them like you played them before the Guard Codex to index Guard, but obviously not as good as being able to use, all the stratagems in the Guard Codex with your Gene Stealers. Oh,
you don't get stratagems either? Even the generic stratagems?
No, because they don't even count as regiment, like the Guard stratagems, like in this book. Because you don't have a Catachan detachment anymore. You just have brood brothers, and there's no rules right now for brood brothers. They said that's coming in the Gene Stealer Codex.
But there is generic Astra Militarum stratagems, right, that don't require regiments?
Yeah.
So you could use those.
You could use those, but it's just not as good, Like a lot of the benefits of the Guard Codex is from like regiment stuff. Yeah. And you don't get that, right? So, is it as good as just playing a pure Guard army then? Probably not. But
you have Gene Stealer cult thrown in, so it could be fun, could be fluffy, gives you some conversion opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it didn't make that army unplayable, but it certainly made it a lot less interesting for me to play.
Yeah, so we're going to go high level through the book. We're going to summarize some stuff that we think's cool, things you should expect. Fairly brief. If you want a more in-detailed look into Astra Militarum, we do have a video on our YouTube channel that Darren put up. So what's that video called?
It's just the read-along Codex Astra Milltown. So that specifically goes through every page. It goes through all the point changes and things like that. We'll highlight some of those as we go through, but we'll concentrate more on the stratagems and stuff as opposed to kind of reading through every data slate.
Cool. So why don't you get us started, Darren?
Yeah, so I guess the main thing, of course, is the regiments. So I think GW has made this pretty clear that unless it's like a mono faction book like Grey Knights, every big faction is getting regiment traits or chapter tactics. So Tyranids are getting high fleet tactics, and so they got regiment tactics, which is what everybody hoped would happen and has indeed happened. And now there's reason to own Mordian models or to own Valhallan models or Vostroyan models, which is awesome. So basically, every regiment gets their own rules. We'll go over that in a second. None of the orders changed, so all the basic guard orders are the same. And then, of course, you have the regimental orders, some of which are good and some of which are not good, as usual. So I guess we can go through these. So the Cadian's tank order allows you to reroll the dice when you determine the number of attacks that turret weapons can make on tanks. Well, that's not bad. Which is good. Yeah. So I think that increases like a d6 from an average of 3 to 4 or something like that. But so that's pretty good. And then, of course, before we go on, Leman Russ tanks have gotten the new trait, Grinding Advance, which is really good. Basically, if you're a Leman Russ, you can fire your turret twice, your main turret, if you move less than half. And the FAQ clarified that if you didn't move, that still counts as moving less than half, because there was a big, silly argument about whether not moving counts as moving less than half. But anyway.
Yeah, I could see both sides of that, but I'm glad they clarified it.
Yeah, so which makes Leman Russes awesome. It makes them a lot better.
They dropped in points, and now they shoot twice with their turret weapon. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So Catechins got Burn Them Out. So you get to reroll the number of attacks when you're using flamers and heavy flamers, and ignores cover, which is okay, but I'm not sure. Other than on Hellhounds, your Catechin army's not really rocking a lot of flamers, I gotta say. So, but if you're playing 8 Hellhounds, that's probably pretty good for you. But you do have to have an officer near your Hellhounds. Yeah, and actually, no, you can't give orders to vehicles, so it doesn't even matter. So I'm not actually sure when you would actually use this strategy.
Well, you can give some orders, but only if it specifically says tank order.
Yeah.
And that one does not, so Hellhounds don't get it. So basically, yeah, you're boned. Yeah. It's if you do the traditional Catechin army from the fluff, they have a lot of flamers, a lot of heavy flamers. Actually, back in the 3rd edition, I believe Catechins were the only Astra Militarum faction to get heavy flamers on infantry.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, like I have 90 Catechin models, none of them have flamers.
Of course not. But that's what the box set, when you bought the 20 Catechins, they only came with flamers.
But it makes sense, though, because they're like jungle fighters, and, it's pretty thematic. So Valhallan's got Fire on My Command, so the order unit can shoot at enemy units that are within 1 inches of friendly units until the end of the phase, but if you roll a 1 on these hits, then it actually hits your friendly unit. And you can't do this if you are yourself within 1 inch of an enemy unit. So it lets you shoot into combat, basically, which is pretty sweet. Tie up a unit with a bunch of conscripts, shoot into that unit, so you kill a few of your conscripts. That's pretty cool.
The only problem I have with this is that with the Valhallan army, you're only getting so many orders. I guess you get quite a few if you spam a few characters and stuff like that. But, that means that you're going to have your conscripts with another line of conscripts or infantry behind them, shooting into it. You're going to need lots of officers to order units, so I was a little bit disappointed in that. Yeah,
I think most guard armies are running brigades these days, and so you're going to have at least 3 commanders, and I don't know. In the games I've played, I've never actually ran out of orders. I usually have more orders than I need. But
I'm just thinking, like, if you have, 30 mortar teams, you can't order very many of them to shoot.
Oh yeah, but that's too many mortar teams.
Yes.
Vostroyans. So these are like the Russian Cossack guys, which I really like.
I have one unit of them. They're awesome models.
Just one unit?
Yeah, like I used to, back when they were, before GW re-released them, I tried to buy one of every metal unit so that I just had them.
Okay. Well, their order is repel the enemy, so this allows you to shoot when you're in combat. Can fire any of its weapons while it is within 1 inch of the enemy, regardless of the weapon type. And you have to target the enemy unit that's within 1 inch. So
that's more what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's interesting that one and the Valhallan one are similar but different, significantly different.
Well, Valhallans make extensive use. I guess I want to say kind of fluff-wise, Valhallans had more of a conscript feel to them. It was more acceptable. So it kind of makes sense that they would like use their conscript screen and just kind of take it, whereas the Vostroyans were supposed to be like really tough, like elite, like hold at all costs, so they would just be firing away while the enemy's just kind of in their grill. So it kind of makes sense.
So Armageddon, I believe, used to be Steel Legion. Is that right? And now they're called Armageddon?
Well, that's how I interpret this, but if you really think about it, Armageddon as a term could include every faction, because if you go to the old 3rd edition Armageddon Codex, there's a page listing all the regiments, and so basically all except for some of the maybe newer, even most of the Forge World ones were on Armageddon. So I honestly think that that's a catch-all for every type of model, but generally I kind of assume it's Steel Legion. They're the actual Armageddon Legion, but they would have called them Steel Legion, but they called them Armageddon, so therefore they're probably referring to any Armageddon Legions. Which could be like Catachans, right? Like there were Catachans in Armageddon. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, cool. You know the fluff better than me, so...
Well, I've been playing Astra Militarum since 3rd edition quite aggressively. I stopped... Actually, only in the last few years when I started playing Eldar, I switched over generally, but...
Yeah. Well, they have Mount Up, which basically at the end of the phase, the ordered unit can shoot and then immediately embark if they're within 3 inches of a vehicle.
I like it a lot.
They can't do that, obviously, if they've just disembarked that turn. That's like that, what's that White Guard thing that you could do in 7th edition, where you could shoot and jump back in, jump out, shoot, and then jump back in.
Like, I like this. Don't get me wrong, it's not game-breaking awesome, but I just love that because I have, 12 Chimeras, and it maybe in a fluff or channel game I could make this work, and it could be quite good.
Like a bunch of melted vets or something.
Yeah, or even just units in general. You spam a bunch of lieutenants or commanders, and they're all like, you kind of sit out of your tanks, you shoot, you jump in your tanks.
Yeah. Talarn got a tank order, get around behind them, so the ordered model can move up to 6 inches this phase before or after it shoots, as if it was the movement phase. Does not affect how far the vehicle moved in terms of determining how many times it can fire its turret weapon, as in the grinding advance. So like extra 6-inch movement, which is never bad.
Yeah, it's kind of... I don't know. I thought it would be cool if the Talarn had like a Rough Rider order instead.
Rough Riders are gone now.
I know, but I don't know. I thought it'd be cool if they had something like that, something more like, I don't know. I just feel like, I know Talarn is supposed to be fast, kind of like the White Scars of the Imperial Guard. They do like raids. They outflank. Like the old character in 5th edition used to let you outflank a platoon of infantry, and I don't know. I'm just like, it's cool to move faster, but it just, I don't know, does moving really equate to like flanking and outmaneuvering opponents? I guess it makes sense. Yeah.
Before we go on, I just had to clarify for grinding advance that you actually have to shoot at the same unit if you shoot twice, and you don't actually suffer the penalty for moving and shooting for heavy weapons. So it's actually, even better.
Yep. And there are some stratagems that mean you can...
Yeah,
you don't count as moving when you deploy them on the side, right?
Nope. The FAQ clarified that counts as moving max.
Oh, it counts as moving max now.
Yeah. So if you infiltrate them with that Talarn stratagem that we'll talk about, yeah. So they FAQ'd that.
Too bad, FAQs.
Military Tempestus got their own Order now, elimination protocol sanctioned. Reroll failed wound rolls for models from the order unit when attacking vehicles or monsters.
Not bad.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, you're generally rocking plasma on these guys, taking out big stuff, so it can be useful. You probably want to reroll hits, though, instead, to be honest, so you don't die from plasma. Mordians have form firing squad. Until the end of the phase, ordered unit can target characters with their rapid fire weapons, even if they're not the closest unit.
I love it.
So when this was spoiled, everybody was like coming up with all these crazy character killing army lists and stuff, but I don't know if it's going to pan out to be as good as everybody thought when they first read it.
I do. I think it's going to be great. I'm like, that could be a really big deal. Because even like, so like conscripts that have las guns, they're rapid fire. You order your conscripts, and then they blow away a character.
Yeah, 80 las guns is going to probably kill something.
They might, right? And you're ordering like 30 of them. It's a lot of hits, a lot of wounds, right?
Yep. Okay, well, those are basically the new regiment orders. So what do you think of those, Chris? Which are good and which are not? Like,
these are not necessarily good enough for me to choose a faction or regiment based on the orders alone. The one that my favorite is the Morty and Iron Guard one, because character sniping is a really integral part of the edition right now. If you can effectively snipe people's characters, you can shut down a lot of the top builds right now. You're playing against Forge World guys. Now you're ordering a conscript unit or any unit. Okay, kill that Malefic Lord. Kill that. Like, you're going to drop 3 or 4 Malefic Lords, maybe a turn, if you're lucky, if you have enough orders. It's good. You combine that with some rattling support, and it's not too terrible. So,
yeah. I think my impression is that, as you say, I don't think you pick your regiment based on this. I think probably you pick based on stratagems.
And the generic orders are pretty good. Like, the generic orders will cover a lot of the stuff that you need them to. The thing is like, like if you're picking Armageddon Legion, the order will contribute to, I guess, the loadout on your models. Maybe you'll take more Toroxes in an Armageddon-style army. That way you can have your troops out of them. Actually, that doesn't apply, because you can't take them as transports. Yeah, you can. Oh, never mind.
You can.
You totally can. So yeah, you can leave your troops out of them, shoot, and then when the enemy gets close, you jump them back in. I think that's a valid tactic, and it also kind of sits in the meta right now. Like, Toroxes are still considered really good, and you still have to take infantry or something to go with them, and then being able to jump the infantry out of the way. Yes, your Torox might get tied down, but it also does protect your infantry to then advance. So they're cool. They're cool. So the next section is like all the rules, and there's only really 2 major changes, right?
Well, so one change was to the conscripts. They can only take orders on a 4+ now. So 50% chance that your order will fail, and if it fails, you can't order them again. So that was one nerf. Their points didn't change as everybody expected that they might. And then, of course, the FAQ added something else in to contribute to their nerf, which was a nerf to the commissar. So the commissar rule now, I'm just looking at that. What's the name of that rule? So the commissar rule, which was summary execution. Yeah. So it used to be that it doesn't matter, you lose 1 extra conscript and they pass morale. So now basically you lose 1 person and then you can re-roll the morale. It is a nerf, but keep in mind that they do get to use the commissar's leadership of 9. Conscripts also got nerfed to 30-person max as opposed to 50 people. So you can only take 30 conscripts. But it still means that probably we're not going to see as many big conscript blobs. And of course,
you still will.
If you're I mean, my list has 14 command points, and I have 2 different ways of recycling those. I can spend my 2 points at the morale phase and save my conscripts, right? So I think I probably save my commissar 30 points and spend it on a commander or something.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Like I think the nerf has made the commissars, lack of a better term, garbage. But the conscripts themselves, for how cheap they are and just their board presence, are still very useful. As well, like, in 30-man units now that they don't auto pass, is it better to take them in smaller units so that when the opponent commits to, like, if you take 20 now, you'll probably still take 30, but you take 20, let's say. Your opponent still has to commit to killing like 10 or more, actually more than 10, to really kill them. So it's like, okay. So even at 30, you're going to have some left over unless your opponent really puts a ton of firepower into them. In which case, they're still only killing like 3-point models. So who cares?
Yeah.
So I actually think you're still going to have 90. It's still awesome.
Yeah, my list still has like 30 or 60, I can't remember, but it still has conscripts because at the end of the day, they're still screen. They're still good screen. So.
Yeah, and so and like there's a lot of cool things like that you can do to kind of like as Darren said, you use one unit to take a lot of the hits and then you auto pass it, so then the next turn your opponent has to commit to killing the last 8 dudes or else you still have 8 guys there. So I think conscripts are still amazing. So what else has changed?
They just consolidated made it easier to track, like Adeptus Ministorum, the priests and the crusaders are in here, the psychers, the telepathica. It's all kind of put together in the same book. And then really the other thing that really struck me is the super heavies. So the super heavies all went down in price, some by like 40 points. And every single, like all the super heavies have weapons that have variable shots, like 1d6, 1d3, whatever. They all added a dice across the board. So Baneblade was 2d6, and now it's 3d6 shots.
Ooh.
Storm Sword was 1d6, 2d3, and now it's 3d3. So they all added number of shots. Which is good.
They needed that because like big models that sink that many points, they can get tied down easily. And I know they can leave and shoot, but you can definitely, if you can get around them so they can't move, you can definitely tie them down.
Yeah.
And then of course we already talked about Lumbering Behemoth, where the Leeming Russ get to shoot twice, they move under half, and they got a points drop as well. So Leeming Russ, I would say, are the real winners in this book. Besides the infantry and the orders and all that stuff, Leeming Russ in general I think are worth it now.
I think we're going to see tank armies back, and especially with some of the stratagems, and that's going to be hard to deal with because they're fairly hard to kill. Leeming Russ, they're harder to kill than rhinos, and then if they're shooting twice, and they're pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good. And then they had a few factions have tank orders. A few factions have tank abilities. Well, actually, most of them have some kind of an ability that affects the tanks. Mm-hmm. So maybe we should get into that then. Regimental doctrines. So this is what's going to dictate what regiment you play.
Yep. So just note, like everybody else, troops in the detachment will get OPSEC, like every other codex so far. And then the other thing they specify specifically is that if you take Militarum Tempestus in your regiment detachment, they gain regiment and they lose Militarum Tempestus benefits. But it doesn't screw your regiment up. So you can just mix your scions in as you like. And you can also do that with tech priests, servitors, priests, crusaders, auxiliary, officio, and the psychena. So all this stuff, everything in this book can all go into your regiment without ruining your regiment restriction. Good. Yeah. Okay, so regimental doctrines. So these are like the chapter tactics, I guess. So Cadians reroll hit rolls of 1 in the shooting phase if they don't move. And reroll all hits if they were infantry and they also took the take aim order. So not too bad. Reroll hit ones. Catechins. Catechins my favorite. I love catechins mostly because they're Rambo dudes.
And you play them, of course.
Yeah. I guess I could play them as whatever, but I stick with catechins because I like the Rambo dudes. But so they add 1 to their strength. So you have strength 4 guardsmen.
Strength 4 conscripts. Oh.
Yeah. And how about Ogrins? What's the strength on Ogrins?
Do they get regimental Ogrins?
Yeah, all infantry.
But are they they don't have the regiment keyword, right?
I'm pretty sure they do. Do they not? They're in this book.
I'm just confirming, man. I'm confirming so that we don't get an angry email.
Yeah. Well, I know that you like your Ogrins, right?
I love them. I have 2 full units. I actually bought the new sword and board ones because I think they're fantastic.
Oh, they have Militarum Auxilia.
Yeah, they don't have the regiment.
Yeah. Oh, that's too bad. Okay.
Yeah, that would be stupid, and we would have heard about that, man. That's why I question it. Sorry, I was saving you a headache of bad emails.
Oh, I don't get those emails. So. Okay, so Catechin's infantry models get +1 strength and +1 leadership if they're within 6 inches of an officer, and the vehicles get to re-roll 1 dice on if they have to roll like their attack numbers. So like a Manticore, you roll 2d6, you get to re-roll 1 of those, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's Leeming Ross. I think Catechins became a tank army, which kind of makes me sad, but they did.
Yeah.
Artillery. So I think they intended it for artillery, but
yeah, like 3d6 on a Bane Blade, you get to reroll 1 of those. Earthshakers. It's nice. Valhallans. So infantry units with this doctrine have the number of models that flee if they fail a morale test, and vehicles have the damage they take. So vehicles double the number of wounds they have remaining for the purposes of determining what their stats are, on the damage table, which is awesome. Which means if you have a tank, you have to bring it down to like the lowest tier before it actually starts to even degrade a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, because just double their wounds, which is really good. Because once you get to half, you're hitting on 5-ups usually, and the efficacy of your tank goes way down. Okay. Units with this doctrine can add 6 inches to the maximum range of heavy or rapid fire weapons that would normally have a range of 24 inches or more.
Yep. So that was Vestroyans. You broke up a little bit there, but yep. Heirloom weapons.
Armageddon. Infantry units with this doctrine double the number of attacks they make with rapid fire weapons at a range of 18 inches rather than half the weapon's range.
Yeah.
And vehicles treat AP -1 as AP 0.
It's not bad.
Not
you
too
combine
bad.
it with that order. You sit back. So that way you can rapid fire at 18 inches, then order your guys in their tanks. I actually think it's really thematic and cool.
Let's see. So if I'm at 18 inches, rapid fire weapons double. So is that like 6 lasgun shots if they take the order as well?
What do you mean take the order?
Is it so if they take the
first rank fire fight?
Yeah.
So basically,
double.
No, it's basically you get your extra attacks at 18 instead of 12.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
So yeah, I first rank fire, second rank fire. I normally get 2 shots at 24, but with you're an 18, I get 4 per guy.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't believe it goes up anymore at 12, right? So it's because it says rather than half. So therefore, it's basically adding 6 inches to your close range rapid fire.
Okay, yeah, no, I read that wrong. Yeah. Okay, and Talarn, infantry units with this doctrine can advance and still shoot any weapon type. And when they do so, they do not suffer the penalties to hit rolls for assault weapons. And vehicles do not suffer the penalty for the hit rolls when moving and firing heavy weapons. If a Titanic vehicle advances, it treats all heavy weapons as assault weapons.
Yeah, so that's more thematic. So it kind of makes sense when you combine that with the order that they're going to be fast and they're going to do a ton of damage on the move. Mm-hmm. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Tempestus. If a model with this doctrine is shooting a target at half range or less, it can make an extra shot with the same weapon for each roll of 6+ you make. These don't generate any additional shots.
Mm-hmm.
And Mordians, if the base of every model in an infantry unit is touching the base of at least one other model from the same unit, you get +1 leadership and add 1 to your hit rolls when firing Overwatch. You can add 1 to hit rolls made for vehicles with this doctrine when firing Overwatch if they're within 3 inches of 1 or more vehicles, Mordian vehicles.
Yep. So which one do you like the best?
Well, I like my Catechins, man.
But like from a gaming point of view, not from a fluff point of view. Because from a fluff point of view, I obviously like the Armageddon the best. Mm-hmm. But from a gaming point of view,
I think Catechin is still strong because you're rocking your variable hits on your artillery and all that stuff, and that's all re-rolling a dice. I think that's very strong.
I kind of think that you're going to want to combine doctrines, which of course gets into some weird modeling issues. People are cool if you're like 1 regiment for your whole army, but I would almost do like 1 detachment of all my tanks would be Catechin for sure, or anything with variable shots for that matter, because that 1 die reroll over the course of 6 turns or 5 turns and 6 games at a tournament or even 3 games at a tournament is a significant amount of damage output. And then the other one is I almost would like to do my conscripts and infantry is Mordian, just so that they overwatch, so that when you charge my conscripts, I'm just shooting you way more often.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that. I don't know if that second part's great. Like it's cool to say, like, Talarn is really cool, but they're still infantry, they're still fragile. So yes, they're moving faster, but they might just still die.
Yeah.
And part of me even thinks, like, even Strength 4 Catachan conscripts could be good, as we said earlier, or you said off air. Put the priest, put Straken. You now have like 3 attack conscripts with
That's
Strength 4.
Yep. No, I think people would definitely be playing with splitting their army into multiple different regiments. The whole issue of should you be modeling them different or whatever. Sure, I mean, you can argue that either side. It'd be cool if these models were very abundant and everybody could just get the right looking models. But at the end of the day, it's kind of hard sometimes to find those other than Cadians and Catachans, hard to find.
Cool. So one of the big things is the stratagems in this book. Any of the stratagems. So there are some stratagems that are the same as ones we've previously covered, right? Because they have the generic ones that they kind of bring over. But I
like how GW is doing that to make every codex a little bit have some of the same similar stratagems. I like how they're doing that, actually.
Cool. So which ones are different, or which ones stand out?
So in my first game with this new book, I used this stratagem, preliminary bombardment. For 2 CP, you basically, after deployment, but before you start the game, you roll a dice for every enemy unit on the battlefield. On a 6, they take a mortal wound. Since my army's rocking 2 ways of getting CPs back, it was basically a free mortal wound on somebody. Unfortunately, I didn't roll any 6s at all, but so I don't think it's actually that useful, but it's kind of fun.
So the one that I really like is Consolidate Squads. So at the end of any movement phase, you pay 1 CP to combine 2 squads. Now, it's a shame that you can only use this once per movement phase, of course, because it's a stratagem and it's during a phase, so you are limited. But I was thinking, like, if you have a lot of CP, because you're taking a battalion, you take 2 units of 30 conscripts, because they're both infantry and they're both same regiment, and you now make a unit of 60, so you kind of get around the nerf a little bit, and then it's less command points to then auto-pass, so now 60 guys are passing with 2 command points on their leadership, and then if you have another 30-man unit behind them, you could then add them in the next turn, if your opponent maybe can't get to them turn 1 to kill them, or something like that. So
it's controversial whether you can do that with conscripts, though.
Why is that controversial?
Because it's saying choose an infantry squad, capital I, capital S, page 93. And I know that conscripts are on page 93, but it's because the capitalization kind of makes you and think that it's just referring to the infantry squad. Also, there's a keyword, infantry squad.
So I never thought about that. So this is like the old rule where infantry squads from platoons, when we used to have platoons, could just combine to make the original blob squad before, I guess, conscripts were good. That was back a few editions ago.
So I don't know. When
I actually
read
see that as well. And
I didn't read that you could do that with the conscripts, to be honest, when I read it. But some people argue otherwise.
What is infantry squad? See, because they use that language in other books. Infantry squad to mean like anything with the infantry keyword.
Yeah, but when they do keywords, they usually put it in that weird font, thicker font, right? Like
I'm on your side with that, man.
Or Astra Militarum character or vehicle, right? This is not thicker. It's just capital I, capital S, normal font. So I think they're really just referring to infantry squad.
That kind of sucks now, because now you're like, can you do it in any? Is it only your infantry? Is it only your movement phase? Yeah, it's your movement phase.
At the end of your movement phase, yeah.
Shoot, so you can only really take, like, during the course of the game, you can put, like, your infantry. Yeah, that's not very good now.
And you can only do it once, right? One stratagem per phase. Well, you
can only do it once per
match
phase.
Play.
Yeah, in match play, which is what generally play. But you could, like, if you had to take a bunch of cheap troop units to fill a slot and you didn't want to take conscripts, you could take, like, 3 10-man units, and then you could combine them over 2 turns, but that just seems not so great anymore.
Yeah, it's not as good as zombies in AOS where you can just combine them all together.
I guess
free.
if you want to save a kill point here or there, you could use it ad hoc to, absorb units. But that's kind of crappy. So what's another one?
I actually like this one, Crush Them. 1 CP at the start of the charge phase. Astra Militarum vehicle can charge even if it advanced and it hits on a 2+ in the fight phase. So that may not seem cool, except that if you look at the combat stats for the super heavies, they're pretty strong. So like a Baneblade is making 9 attacks, strength 9, adamantium tracks -2 Ren D3 damage, and if it's hitting on 2s instead of 5s, that can do some damage.
That's cool. So the one I like is not very good, but I still like it because it's kind of fluffy, and I love chimeras. It's my favorite tank, so I'm a little bit biased here, but Mobile Command Vehicle is 1 CP. Use at the start of any of your turns. You choose a chimera from your army. Until the end of the turn, an officer from your army with the voice of command ability may still issue orders while embarked within that chimera, and is treated as being within 3 inches of a Voxcaster. So it's from any point on that vehicle as well. I'm a owner with fully painted 12 chimeras, so to me that's kind of cool. It means that I can keep my officers inside the tank. I can use my command point to then jump a unit in that tank, shoot that unit, then use a command point, jump them in that tank. I don't have to leave my officer out in the open exposed. It's not that competitive, but it's cool with what I want to do with my kind of fluffy army.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
No? You disagree?
No. Yeah.
Like, it's not good. Cool. I'm not gonna lie, it's not good. Because it's mainly not good because chimeras are not good. Like, if chimeras were good, that would be decent, but they're not good. You're not going to take them. There's no reason to take a chimera, which sucks.
Yeah. I like the Grenadiers. I think if you're, I mean, it may be not that much better than shooting a bunch of rapid fire las guns, but if you have like 10 guys and they all have grenades, now 10 of them can fire frag grenades, which are what, D6 or grenades D6 or something like that.
Yeah, frag grenades D6
in Overwatch, which is adds up to quite a lot of grenades.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a little gotcha. Ooh, 1 CP, boom.
Yeah, one actually I like is Fight to the Death. It's 1 CP. You get to roll a D3 for morale rather than a D6 on 1 unit. The reason I like that is there's so many times when you've taken a few casualties, you have like 1 or 2 models left in a unit, and you're like, I don't need to auto pass for 2 CP. I just need to sometimes you're like, oh, I just don't need to roll like a 4+ and I die. Well, now, no, you can auto pass with 1 CP, and then you can use 2 CP to auto pass another unit. So it's a nice, handy little stratagem to kind of keep 2 units in the fight.
Yeah, and that might be helpful to keep your conscripts on, and so there's lots of stuff in here that helps you mitigate that.
So I'm assuming you'd use this on like a mortar team or something that lost a couple guys. You don't want to lose the last one, or like a littler unit, because like conscripts, let's face it, somebody's going to shoot them and kill like 18. Yeah. So you really need to spend 2 CP if you want them to live, of course.
Yeah.
If you don't, just let them die and take more of them.
So I really like this stratagem, Go Recon. For 1 CP at the start of your shooting phase, instead of the Scout Sentinel shooting, it can move 2d6. So I kind of like that, because if your Scout Sentinels are actually still alive, it help you get you onto a objective or something for a CP. It's a little bit not as good since it's variable. You could roll a 2. But I quite like that. I see utility in that, not all the time, but something that you keep your card on your table just in case you're like, I need to really get to that objective.
Cool. I like Send in the Next Wave. It's 2 CP. Use the stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select a Valhallan infantry unit from your army, most likely conscripts, excluding characters from infantry squads that have used the combined squad stratagem, so you can't like combine units and then pull them off. That was destroyed earlier in the battle. Set that unit up wholly within your deployment zone, within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield, and more than 9 inches from any enemy models. So this is cool because you're basically just redeploying a unit.
So the FAQ did say that this costs you reinforcement points.
Yep. So
Not that good anymore.
yeah, not that good.
Although it's not a lot of points for like 30 conscripts.
So part of me is like, the reason I like this so much, and it's not really a game reason. This basically allows you, as an Astra Militarum player that maybe wants a ton of conscripts, to maybe keep 30 or 60 of them off the board. So you don't have to paint, you don't have to build those models, you don't have to deploy them, you don't have to move them, you don't have to shoot them or fight with them, because they're like your backfield objective grabbers. And then as your front ranks of conscripts die, you can then just kind of throw new units on the back edge to hold backfield objectives. That's kind of why I like it. Is it just allows you to play a bit smarter and funner.
Yep. Yeah.
But the one thing that I didn't talk about before is, like, when you combine infantry, you can combine a character into a unit, right? Or can you only combine 2 infantry squads? You can only combine 2 infantry squads.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it depends how you interpret that command point, because it actually says in this one, it excludes characters and infantry squads that have used the combined squad stratagem. So that implies that it's all infantry.
No, it doesn't.
Why not?
It just talks about infantry squads, capital I, capital S, that have used that stratagem.
But if you read in this one, it says excluding characters and infantry squads that have used the combined squad stratagem.
Yeah. How's that different?
So it's implying that characters can combine.
No. I mean, maybe they should have put an extra comma there. But it excludes characters, and it excludes infantry squads that use the combined squad stratagem.
It should be a period there, right? Excluding characters.
Well, there's no precedent by which a character can join a squad, like ever, anywhere in the game.
Okay.
Right? And it doesn't say you can do that in that combined squad stratagem. This doesn't talk about characters at all.
It says infantry. I think that's definitely a gray area, and I don't think the FAQ addressed that well enough for me, or well enough.
It says infantry squad, not infantry.
Yeah, but it also says excluding characters and infantry squads that have the combined squads that have used the combined squad stratagem.
Yeah, but the combined squad stratagem doesn't talk about characters.
But this does, so therefore it must apply to characters, right? I could be wrong, but I'm just saying it's making your case a bit weaker. I hope you're right, buddy. I hope you're right. It's making your case weaker every time we read it. What's the next one?
So ambush. For 3 CP, as a Talarn army, you could set up up to 3 units, infiltrate them, basically outflank them, wholly within 7 inches of any battlefield edge, more than 9 inches from an enemy during deployment. And you can do this with vehicles, but the FAQ did specify only one of these units can be vehicles. But of course, you can get 3 Leman Russ in a unit.
Nope.
Yeah,
you buy them as you buy them as a slot, but they're not they're deployed as one unit and then they separate.
Yeah, but so you can still deploy them as one unit, right?
Really?
Yep.
Really?
It says choose 3 units, and they're 1 unit of 3 tanks. And then after you deploy them, now they're 3 units. But
or are they one choice of 3 tanks?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to argue your point there, then you really got to look at the full wording of both sides, right? Because then it might matter. So we'll have to take a quick look on that. But like I kind of think it should take up all 3 spots. But if you only do 1 as a vehicle, what does the internet kind of say on that? Have you had anybody argue that against you?
No, this is what people have been doing. So they were originally thinking of infiltrating 3 like super heavies, but so now it's just reduced to 1 unit of 3 Leman Russes if you want, which is still pretty good. And the FAQ does specify that they count as having moved max, so they can't double shoot if they're Leman Russes. But
doesn't say they're deployed as a unit. It says the first time this unit is set up, all models in this unit must be placed within 6 inches of each other. Yep, you're right. So yeah, you're 100% right. You can deploy 3 Leman Russ as one of those vehicle options because they're 1 unit prior. Yep, cool. Yep. I just wanted to confirm that it made sense and it looked good.
Yep.
I should have never doubted you, Darren.
Of course. I also like vicious traps. but it's kind of limited by the fact that your unit has to be wholly in a terrain feature.
Yep.
But if you are, then and you take a charge on a 4+, they get D3 mortal wounds, which is kind of cool.
It's cool if you're playing Catachan anyway.
Yeah.
And a character with like 1 or 2 wounds chart, like, you know what I mean? It's one of those like cheeky ones that you kind of just keep in your back pocket for that 1 in 6 game to like nuke something.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna charge with your last Marine into my dudes on this objective and hope that I like break? No, you're dead.
Trap.
So it's cool and I like it. It has a place and a role, but it's not like obvious to use every day, and you'd never base an army around it or a unit, right?
No. Actually, I think a lot of the stratagems are kind of like that. I think they have their use at certain times or certain places in the game, but I don't think any of them are super game breaking. Except for maybe the ambush one's pretty good, but it is 3 CP. But most guard armies don't care about 3 CP. So
yeah, because they have the volume of cheap units in multiple slots that they can easily get a ridiculous. Like I would argue, like a lot of guard armies can hit 20 CP no problem.
Yeah.
Might be an exaggeration, maybe 18, but yeah.
So I guess we're on to Psychana, which is the new powers. So the 3 are the same: the Terrifying Visions, the Gaze of the Emperor, and the Psychic Barrier. I quite like Psychic Barrier. Add 1 to saving throws. I think that's really good.
That's really, really good.
Yeah.
And the next one's really good too. So
yeah, I also like this one. Within manifest on a 6, a friendly unit
called
within
Night Shroud.
Night Shroud, yep. A friendly unit within. So any unit, doesn't say infantry. Any unit within 12 inches. To start next turn, any unit that targets the chosen unit with a ranged weapon suffers -1 to hit.
Yep, so what somebody did to me is they Psychic Barriered Baneblade, then they Night Shrouded the Baneblade, and then the first unit that shot the Baneblade, he also used the Stratagem of -1 to hit.
Nice.
So it's a nice combo if you have a big Death Star. You could also do it to like an Ogryn unit now. Like, so I used to run my Ogryns, and then I don't know if it's Ogryns or Ogryns. I think I like Ogryns better. And I would give them Psychic Barrier so that they had like a 2+ save in the open, or a 1+ save in the open, sorry. But now you can go Night Shroud, and then you can also do that same tactic on like a big unit of 10 or 9 Ogryns, and it's like they're like really hard to kill.
So I don't think there is a -1 to hit stratagem. I think you're thinking about Take Cover, which actually adds 1 to the saving throw.
Well, then somebody cheated me.
Yeah, so actually, for whatever reason, I also thought there was a -1 stratagem, and I apologize to Jeremy because I think I saw that, and I swear I lost the card, and I looked for it for 30 minutes after the game, and I didn't lose the card because there was no card, because there is no stratagem for -1 to hit.
So, you know what? I think, yeah, you're right. There is no... Oh, man, so I think I got cheated. It's okay. He was a nice guy.
And the FAQ did clarify that Take Cover is, in fact, only applicable to infantry, not to tanks.
And so Take Cover is what again? Just +1
so
save?
Take Cover is +1 to your save when targeted in the shooting phase for 1 CP, but the FAQ specifies infantry, not tanks.
Yeah, so it would work on my Ogryns then. So sorry I made another mistake there, but so I could do Psychic Barrier, Night Shroud, and then another +1, so I could literally get to like a 0 save.
Yeah.
So you have to be like Rend 3 to affect them. And if I get into cover, I could be even lower.
Which is silly, yeah.
But I think that makes them pretty cool now. Like, some variety, right? Like, are you going to see them at top tables and tournaments? I don't know, but I loved my Ogryns. Like, they absorbed so much firepower, and you put a couple Primarises behind them, and they're gold now.
Yeah. So the 5th power is actually another a mitigator for the conscript stuff is Mental Fortitude. Warp charge value of 4, so pretty hard to fail. Friendly unit within 12 inches, pass morale test automatically.
Yeah, awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and Primary Psyker
I have nothing wrong with a 4 that does that.
Primary
Psychers are cheap.
They're only 10 points more than the Commissar and can also smite, so, you know.
Yep, take 1,000 of them. Done.
Yep.
2 Supreme Command attachments full of Primary Psychers.
Yep.
10 units of Ogryns. No, I'm just kidding. But
no spoilers. Last power, Psychic Maelstrom. Warp charge value of 7. enemy unit within 18 inches, roll a d6. On a 2+, they suffer a mortal wound. If it's not negated, then on a 3+, they suffer another one. Blah, blah, blah. Keep going until you fail to cause a wound or the unit is destroyed.
Did that sum up my thoughts on that one? Mind you, I'm like, this discipline, or this lore, whatever you want to call it, is awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
awesome.
it's really good. Yep. Especially if your army's got like 6, 7 Primaire Psychers. Like, yeah.
Well, you don't even need more than really 2 or 3, but Night Shroud alone is like, even on your -1 to hit, screw you, right? Because most people want to get rid of your chaff. So this unit's -1 to hit. The unit that isn't is going to like auto pass, or if you shoot everything into that unit, it's going to auto pass. I'm going to cast a power so that unit's immune. Like, oh yeah, it's like, there's so much you can do. Now they can only cast 1 power, correct, per turn? Primaire Psychers?
Yeah.
And they're what, 45 points?
40 points.
40 even. Okay, yeah, so that's not terrible at all. 400 points for 10 of those guys is not crazy by any means.
Yep.
Is there a better way to get Smite in that list? Well, Smite, you don't really need Smite that much, but you definitely want 3, because you want access to all those powers. Like, you want, I don't know, you want Psychic Barrier, you want Night Shroud, you want Mental Fortitude going off every turn. 100%. So, cool, I like it. I'm like, when I saw that, I immediately just had dreams of Ogrins running through and crushing everybody. Nothing wrong with that, man. Like, those models are... I used to think they were really stupid, the ones with the shields and stuff, but once I assembled them, it really grew on me.
Yeah, no, you should do it. A whole army of them.
Oh, you could all... Yeah. No, I don't have that many. I only have, I think, 15 in total, so...
Yep.
So anything else? So Heirlooms of Conquest, is there anything worth mentioning down there? Sometimes we skip over that.
Yeah.
There is?
Kurov's Aquila. For Officer, every time your opponent uses a stratagem, you get a command point on a 5+.
Yeah, that one was used against me.
I like it. I got so many command points off of that thing.
So that's a must. That's a 1+ in your army.
I think you have to. Yeah, and if you want other relics, then you have to take the 3 CP relic, because you'll probably get that 3 CP back. So, yeah.
What do you mean 3 CP relic? Oh, so the one that gives you
the stratagem, that lets you get extra relics, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because on a 5+, 1/3 of the time, you're going to get a command point back. So,
yeah.
I also like, for Valhallans, another way to mitigate conscript nerf is Pietrov's MK45. Basically, it's a fancy bolt pistol, but what it allows you to do is any units within 6 inches of the bearer can never lose more than 1 model as a result of any single failed morale test.
But you have to be Valhallan.
Valhallan only, yeah.
Still worth it. So they basically nerfed the conscripts to then unnerf them. But that's fine.
Yeah, but you have to build more specifically towards unnerfing them, I guess. So
yeah, works for me. I'm okay with that, because then you could snipe that guy a bit easier. Yeah. Mind you could snipe commissars quite easily as well, if you had like rattlings. So they removed, you said they removed Rough Riders, right? I know we're getting off topic. But you could still use the Index Rough Riders, correct?
Yes, I guess so.
So they didn't really remove them. They just removed them if you want to use stratagems.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll move on to Warlord traits. Is there any?
Yeah.
So these are pretty good. So they have 2 sets of Warlord traits. They have the generic ones, and then they have the ones for each regiment.
Yeah.
So take it away, bud.
Okay, this is my favorite. Number 1, Grand Strategist. So while your warlord is alive, you can reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw. Okay, fine. If in addition your army's battle forged and your warlord's on the battlefield, roll a dice for every command point spent when using stratagems. You get that back on a 5+. Boom.
So you could theoretically get 2 stratagems back if you rolled 2 5+s and you had that item in this.
I was doing that all the time. It's crazy.
Disgusting.
And you know what? It doesn't say. It just says roll a dice for each command point spent when using stratagems. It doesn't actually say when you use stratagems.
Yeah, it's for both players. I played against this, yeah.
Yeah, because I played it wrong, actually. I should have been getting, a ridiculous amount of... Because then you combine that with Kurlov's Aquila. You're basically just rolling in command points.
CP factory. That's what we'll call it the CP factory list.
So you seriously don't need a commissar anymore. You just spend your 2 CP to save your conscripts. Like, it's really nothing. And then you might get those 2 CP back anyway.
Well, not 2, 1/3 of the year, yeah. But that's the thing, over 3 turns, you're getting a free basic auto pass out of it.
Yeah, like, it's crazy. And every time your opponent uses stratagem, you're getting, it's a lot of command points.
And you can easily fit in a battalion, and then that's basically 12 command points because you get 9 plus 3. You're doing a lot.
Yeah, like, even if you like spam useless stratagems, like, I don't think you could use it all.
Yeah, you'd be using. You get a lot of rerolls too.
Yeah, which makes it funny because it makes the beginning part of this warlord trait almost kind of useless. But
is there any other warlord traits worth taking?
Well, if you're going to take that one, then I guess no. But what was the other one that was pretty good? So there was one that allows you to add 3 inches to voice of command and auras. That's called Bellowing Voice. Yeah, it's okay. And then there's one, was it Old Grudges? So after deployment, but before the first battle round, choose a unit in your opponent's army. You can reroll all failed wound rolls for Astra Militarum units from your army that target that unit while they are within 6 inches of your warlord. So if you got a hard on for killing a particular unit, or if you want to get your first blood off or something, that might be useful. But I don't think any of that is better than the CP back.
Yeah, so it's sad, but there's one that's worth it, and that's the one you take. Sadly, number 1.
Yep.
Are any of the regimental ones? So now the regimental warlord traits, are these mandatory if you're a regiment?
No. If you wish, optional. You can pick a regimental warlord trait.
So are any of these good?
Well, except for Yarick, Yarick has to use the Master of Command warlord trait, but and like Strachan has to use the Catechin one, for example.
Oh, so all the special characters have to use their regiment warlord trait?
Yeah,
that's kind of cool. So, any of those any good, or?
I didn't think any of them were as good as the Grand Strategist, right? And there's no compelling reason to make any of the name characters your warlord. So at the end of the day, you make a company commander, you're sitting somewhere safe, your warlord, and you get him as your CP recycling engine, basically.
Yeah. Like there's Armageddon, add 1 to the warlord's attack characteristic and 1 to any wound rolls. Yeah, right.
Yeah, the Catechin one is you can move 6 inches when you perform a heroic intervention. Like, you're going to be doing that very often. So, yeah.
Or, I'm sure you could do it every game, but does it matter? Or is getting the potential of 33% of your CPs back, I think, outweigh? So it's kind of funny. They made that one that's just too good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it for the book. We've done a brief summary. If you want more, as we said, check out our YouTube channel. So now we're going to move on to question and answer. The first question comes from Caleb via Twitter. Which super heavy tank should I take? Darren?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this recently because, I like my big models. And I think, it kind of depends on the rest of your list as well to some extent. But if you're just taking the super heavies on a individual, like in a crystal, like a vacuum sort of thing, I think you default to the Shadow Sword or the Stormlord or the Stormlord. I think it depends what you want to kill, though. You see, those 2 tanks don't do the same thing. I think the Baneblade is good, but it depends what you want to kill. I think the Baneblade got a lot better since it went up to 3d6 shots.
Yeah, well, the Stormlord's really good too because you can put that's when you can put the units in, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Stormlord's the one you can put all your units in.
You put your units and you shoot. And so I guess the correct answer to that is which Baneblade, which super heavy do I take? Kind of depends what you want, as long as you take 3 Primaris Psychers so that they're always -1 to hit and +1 save. Right? That's a 1+ if you're investing that many points in a tank. So you have your Stormlord, you put 2 Primarises behind it, that thing's going to live at least 3 turns. The only thing that's really going to take it down is Smite, but you have your Conscripts to absorb a lot of that, so it's solid. But yeah, Stormlord I think is still the best one.
Yeah, if you're playing in a meta where there's lots of knights and big stuff, then a Shadow Sword's going to kill something every turn.
Next question via Twitter is from Innes. It's how relevant will the counter chaos items / stratagems be in the meta? Will they be standard choice and push chaos out of viability? So I can answer the second part right away. They won't push chaos out of viability, I don't think.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
They have a slight impact on it.
There's a couple, right? There's like 2 that are specifically for against chaos. Just looking them up here. One is this one, Vengeance for Cadia, which is not actually a Cadian-only stratagem. But when you select one of your Astra Militarum units to shoot or fire Overwatch, reroll failed hit and wound rolls.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm trying to find the other one. I think the other one was...
Yeah, and then... I don't know. So if you're catering your items to that, it depends on the tournament. If the tournament allows you to select... like warlord traits or items and spells and stuff I shouldn't say spells, psychic powers, at the game level, at the per game, then yeah, I could see definitely somebody selecting an item, or like stratagems, I guess you always have access to them, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I actually don't think it's going to have a great effect at all.
No. So the other one is actually a relic, Cadian relic. So reroll hit and wound rolls of 1 for all Cadian units within 12 inches of the bearer. And if it's chaos, they reroll all failed hit and wound rolls. So it's kind of like you turn them into a little bit of a G-man.
Yeah, like it's a decent item. I like it. Like it's good. Is it going to cause chaos to fall from top spot? I don't think so.
Yeah, and it's only for 1 turn. So
yeah, they have an effect, but that's not enough. I think when the Eldar come out, if they also have counter chaos items, it'll be a big impact. So we'll move over to Facebook questions, Darren.
Yeah, so Jay asks us, what Astra Militarum units are good enough to spam a lot? Do any regiment bonuses make an army of spammed units OP?
Conscripts you want to spam.
Yeah. Conscripts.
Mortars are good enough to spam.
Mortars, Scions.
Toroxes, Scions.
There's a lot of spamability, primary strikers.
Rattlings, I guess, is 3 units spam or 2 units spam, maybe. You don't want to overly spam Rattlings because they're expensive for what they do.
Earthshakers.
Earthshakers are decent when you spam them.
Yeah. There's a lot.
Like, I'm actually thinking Leeming Rust might be a viable spam option.
I think so.
Because you're going to be able to get like 10 of them, and then if you're maybe not quite 10, that's an exaggeration, but 8, and then with the Catachin thing of re-rolling the 1 die on the shots, you're doing a lot of damage. Or you could even just take like 10 Earthshakers, and now when you're rolling 2d6, you get to re-roll the low one. You're probably going to average like 5 dice a tank. So then you take like 10 of them, you're averaging like 50 shots. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Yeah. And if you're playing Chaos, you take the Relic so that they get to re-roll. Yeah, you're going to nuke some stuff. You can throw Yark in there in case you play Orcs, but it's pretty cool. Yeah. Astra Militarum has a lot of options and a lot of things you can spam.
Yep.
So that's like it's kind of a hard question to answer because now which stratagem like is better for, or sorry, what regiment's better for spamming? Depends. You can have 3 of them, so why limit yourself to 1? You know, if you're taking a ton of conscripts, you might want to go for Mordian so that they're overwatching and they're kind of protecting you. If you're taking artillery, go for the Catachans, right? If you're going for like a combat build of like conscripts assaulting people with priests and Straken, then yeah, go Catachan. But I'm not going to say it's amazing, but it's cool.
Yeah.
So, next question.
Okay, next is from Errol Anderson. Do IG Super Heavies get regiment bonuses when in a Supreme Command detachment? If your Supreme Command detachment is all the same regiment, then yes.
Okay, next question.
Ron McCallum asks, why doesn't anyone like Jeff Brown? I don't know if we can answer that question very easily.
I like Jeff Brown. So Jeff was on our AdMac podcast, and him and Ron are very good friends. So it's a joke. It's in jest. It's in jest.
Yeah. BJ asks, psychic powers, which are the best and for what? So I think we
covered that
already.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yep. Errol asked another question: can Genestealer Cult unit use the take cover? So that's already, we talked about that.
No, they cannot because they are not regiments.
Yep, it has to be on the Astra Militarum infantry, clarified in the FAQ. He also asked, can tank commanders order themselves? I think.
Wait, they are Astra Militarum infantry.
Not the Gene Stealers.
Not the Gene Stealer cult, but the Astra Militarum units in Gene Stealer cult can do it.
Okay, well, he didn't specify what units.
Oh, so you're interpreting it, can he use that on a Gene Stealer unit?
Yeah. Well, that's what he asked. Can my Gene Stealer cult unit use the take cover stratagem?
So the Astra Militarum units in a Gene Stealer cult army can, but Gene Stealer cult units, no.
No.
Yeah.
And that particular stratagem only affects Astra Militarum infantry units.
Yeah, with those keywords.
Can tank commanders order themselves now? I always thought that they could. Was that a thing that they couldn't?
I don't know. I don't personally play the tank commander. I just ran some spam tanks, and I preferred to run my general as Commissar Yarrick for the reroll ones, but we'll see. So just
tank commander.
Give me the next question while you do that.
The next question is, are plasma cannons good on Russes now that they don't blow up and do 6 damage?
Yes, they're definitely much better. They're still pricey, but yeah, they're better than they were. So anybody that had the old Forge World turrets or had plasma executioners from 5th edition when they were awesome, you can now use them again and they're still effective. You know, just they're expensive.
Yeah.
But they're effective. I'd rather spam some of the more lighter on points variants, but that's just me.
Punishers, very nice. Okay, Jack Daniel Morris, can we discuss Eldar instead? Later.
Next show. Next show. Special guest.
Next show. Stu Martin says, when running Knight Commander Pask in a 1,500 point list, what Rust is he best in and what rest would you take in his unit? I think most people would put Pask in the Punisher. Yeah,
I'd put him in the Punisher, especially because he gets to shoot twice now. And in his unit, honestly doesn't matter because they're not a unit after they deploy. But it depends what you're going for, because if you're taking the stratagem so that you want them to ambush, well, you can't ambush with him, can you? He's not Talarn.
No, he's Cadian.
So you can't do that. So, yeah, you probably want something with some long range to force your opponent to come towards you. Or just take 2 more Punishers and just 3 heavy bolters and just go at him.
Yeah, like these things double shooting. He's hitting on 2+, just volume of fire. You want to take volume of fire if you're hitting on 2+, really. Heavy 20, double firing. It's crazy. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Caleb asks, when are we getting a Death Guard book discussion? Never.
Yeah, they kind of fell in the wayside. It's too minor of an update. Like, there's a few stratagems that are good, but then you need a full Death Guard detachment. From a competitive point of view, the Death Guard are a hard one because they're so elite that they suffer at the hands of a lot of armies. But we could maybe fit in some Death Guard discussion maybe in a month or 2 when we catch up on some of the mainstream releases.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's his list that he's looking at running.
I do have a Death Guard pit my list actually that came in as well.
Yeah, like what we've seen of Death Guard so far has been Morty, Magnus, and a 3rd Super Heavy.
That's not even Death Guard.
Yeah, or just Morty and Magnus as the Bash Brothers, as the people are calling them.
Which to me is not even that effective of a list.
Yeah.
The cool thing, Death Guard turned into a good supplementary book. Like, they have those casters. I forget the name of them. They're like 100 points. What are they called?
Malignant plate caster.
There you go. They got 2 points. They have a decent power that does mortal wounds on a 6 for a whole unit. So they kind of turned into a Chaos Soup supplementary book with a caster and usually Morty. He's pretty good. He's not... I don't know. The big guys tend to just die, but...
He still dies. Yeah.
But I would definitely like to, because we do have some pimp my list for that, so we will revisit Death Guard later.
Yeah, Caleb's been working on a list of all bloat drones and those blight crawler things.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to get Caleb on, and we'll just do like a pimp my list and talk Death Guard one show.
Yeah,
very briefly.
Yeah, we should do that. Yeah. Roston Hamilton asks, will you be talking about Renegades and Heretics as well?
No.
No, thanks. I'm glad they're not a thing right after last edition.
Well, they still are. They're still a thing.
I haven't heard of anyone playing them, though.
I play them. I play one thing from them. Malefic Lords.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And actually, you can take. I've seen a lot of chaos lists with Earthshaker batteries and Earthshaker cannons, and it adds that shooting to the chaos that they don't really have, range shooting. So they're decent, but ultimately, the Elysians seem to be pretty good. I'm just not interested in that aspect of going through them because I don't know, they just don't feel right. Like, if I'm going to talk about them, I'm going to talk about them in, like, a tournament report where I'm bringing them into my chaos list. Because they're more of a chaos soup thing, not necessarily a pure army thing.
Yeah.
Next question?
Next question. Are there tank squads anymore? You take them in 1, 2, or 3, but once you deploy them, they split.
Yeah, same
so
as the
kind of, not really, kind of. Irvin asks, do you think Astra Milltown is an actual threat to the current Chaos Soup lists or Zerker lists? Yes, those are probably the top 2 armies right now. Guard and
they're right
Chaos
up there.
Soup. Yeah. If so, what tactics do you suggest to deal with these lists? Will Astra Milltown still crumble once the lines are broken by close combat unit?
That's true. Especially the Berserker Rush. Man, they go through your whole conscript wave in like a turn. But you just got to play smart, do it wave by wave, do a ton of damage, play to the objectives. You have the tools to deal with most people, so you should be okay.
Yeah.
But, it depends. Because Chaos Soup isn't nearly as good if you don't allow Forge World. So if you're talking from an ITC perspective, then Astra Militarum is a little bit behind Chaos Soup and will struggle to keep up. If you're allowing Forge World, that's what I said. If you allow Forge World, it's behind. If you don't allow Forge World, it's definitely right on par with them.
Oh, yeah. No, I think Chaos Soup is not even half as strong without Malefic Lords.
Oh, no, it's way more than half as strong. But Malefic Lords definitely take about 30 to 40% punch out of that list.
Yeah. BJ asks again, what would you suggest tactics-wise best use of a Stormlord is as an assault tank or to put units inside of it?
Put units inside, sit back on an objective, do a ton of fire damage, use it to get the +1 to go first, so minimize your units. You could put a lot of things in it. You could put mortars in it. You could put lascans in it. I would recommend going fairly cheap if you can, something like mortars. That way they're just not able to get shot and killed. You can save some Maelstrom cards. Definitely take the Primaris Psychers, -1 to hit, +1 save. Use the Stratagem. No, you can't use the Stratagem, so never mind. But that's still pretty good, -1 to hit, +1 save.
Yeah. Too bad we don't have... Can you put Ogryns in there? Like, using it as an assault tank, move it up, use that stratagem that allows it to hit on 2+, stuff piles
but
out
arguably,
inside.
Ogryns would be more survivable than a Stormlord because they could move up. You're not really sacrificing your shooting. They also can go to ground or whatever, so they can basically be almost more survivable in a lot of ways.
Sure.
And they're cheaper. Sure. Like, why would you? I wouldn't bother using it I wouldn't use an assault tank. I would use it as a gun platform and to minimize your drops.
Yeah, and you can't put Arcoflages in them, so that's too bad. Yeah. Mark Andre asks, what can MSU elite armies do against Horde-style Astra Militarum lists?
It's tough, man.
That's a tough battle. Yeah, it's a tough battle.
You got to tie them down.
40 right now.
Yeah, you got to engage them early and tie them down, hold them back, and then get as many objectives as you can early game, depending on the mission, and then kind of just hope you don't get tabled. There's nothing wrong with like engaging 2 conscript units like turn 1 if you have some kind of fast combat flyer or something, just to stop them from moving, and then just take away that element of like control. But it's tough, man. Like, elite MSU armies are really, really, really struggling in the meta, and that's why Grey Knights, that's why Death Guard are not hot topics right now.
Yeah. It's just hard when you have to kill that many models and they have that many guns.
I agree.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
That's it for Facebook questions.
Cool. So we do have some email questions. A lot of them are army specific, so we're going to save those for next time. So if you didn't hear your email question, you're wondering why, well, we can only get to so many per show, so we'll definitely include them on the next one. We won't forget about you, and if we do, kindly please send us another email, and we will get to that. Sometimes they fall through the cracks. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate you. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for your lists. We didn't pimp one tonight because we have a lot going on, and we didn't find something that we could kind of fit in. But if you want your list pimped, or if you have a question, you can email us at canhammer.podcast@gmail.com. For more information, visit canhammer.ca. And with that, have a good one.
Good night.